Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our NET&CHAT live event. Just a few notes. The event is being recorded, so once you will have a video. Also, as this is going to be a very relaxed and informal discussion, please, you are more than welcome to ask any questions in the chat room. Your videos and microphones will remain turned off for the remainder of the event. I would also like to invite you to have your cup of coffee, tea, and let's network and chat a little bit this morning about how to digitalize our businesses. Exactly. So joining us today is Jan, Adrie, owner, a very handy CRM tool, also initiator of the Digital Nomad Association. And also with us today joining is Bojan, owner of a consultant company from Zagreb that can help you map out, analyze, and suggest solutions for the digitalization of your organization. My name is Sandra. I am from Aestus, our consulting division, and we can help you finance any of the ideas that may arise today. So let's kick off with maybe a very basic and foremost question. Should we even start this day in this day and age with digitalizing our processes? Should we actually maybe use our resources to go in towards production growth or maybe increase sales in revenues? I feel maybe this is a very basic and very a low-level question that really needs to be touched, just because we have so many micro and small entrepreneurs here in Croatia that have been around for decades and are probably lost and are probably just trying to find their way how to proceed in the next stage of businesses. So I will kindly ask you to share your thoughts and maybe give floor to Jan at the beginning and actually see what his thoughts are around this key point. Jan.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me, Sandra. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You know, whenever I get these kind of questions, I very much look at these kind of, let's say, challenges from a marketing perspective, from a sales and marketing perspective, because I mean that's my background. Not looking at things as much as for example you would do as more of an accountant kind of company, consultancy company. But yeah, I mean, especially when, for example, when we all went into lockdown because of COVID-19, it was obviously a big shakeout. You know, all of a sudden, everybody that was just having retail stores and was not present online, all of a sudden, those companies had zero revenues. Restaurants that didn't have any delivery service, all of a sudden, they had zero revenues. And all of those kind of companies, they had to switch pretty much overnight to an online environment, and they had to basically implement all those digital channels all of a sudden. So yeah, for companies like us, Webpower Adrie, you mentioned earlier that we are more specialized in CRM. It's actually not CRM, it's more focused on marketing automation. But we have, for example, seen significant growth therefore, because a lot of companies, they want to implement communication channels that allow them to communicate with their audiences through digital channels. So yeah, I mean, it's not any. I mean, I really think it's an outdated question on whether you should or should not be online. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you want to continue in the future to do business, you have to have an online presence.
I actually thoroughly agree. It's just the fact that, you know, like a lot of companies that just have seen their progress and growth without the online presence, and unfortunately or luckily, of course, have not been affected as much with the COVID-19 and without being present online, are still in the train of thought of, okay, I just need to buy more equipment, more machinery, more new different kind of tools that help me grow my production. but I'm not really focused on digitalizing the business. So maybe that would also be a good key point to reflect upon, how to actually help those companies understand what is the next step forward.
Well, you know, for me, the most dangerous position to be in as a company is when everything is going actually quite well and everything is very comfortable, because it makes you very lazy. And if you are in a business that is not affected because of having to go digitally, and you're just doing business as usual and everything is fine, things are, let's say, good and comfortable, perhaps this is therefore the time for you to really get a bit more uncomfortable and to start moving into, let's say, new territory for you as a business by going online. Because, you know, if you don't do it, then your competitors will, and it's just going to catch up to you later on, and all of a sudden you realize, okay, we might have missed this train, and then it's going to cost you a lot more. Perhaps it could cost you your entire company if you then try to catch up.
Yeah, I would agree. Bojan, would you like to share a few thoughts on this key point?
Yeah, thank you, Sandra, and hello everyone from my side as well. So I'm really glad to be part of this chit chat coffee kind of event and discussing the term I basically breathe and live, and although don't like at all, like digital transformation part. I will explain over the event why I don't like the term itself a lot. But let me just refer back to your question in terms of should companies digitalize and go online. There is definitely no doubt about, you know, if to go online or not, or if to digitalize or not. What I actually always emphasize to the number of customers we are working on, and basically Jan touched that in his intro as well, is the reasoning for digitalization, for digital transformation, and transformation is basically key part there. Why I'm mentioning it, there needs to be a clear business goal of going to, you know, digital world, whatever digital means in the specific customer environment. It's not only about you and your company being present online. If you do not know what to do with this online presence, you would end up in a dead-end street anyhow. You know, Jan mentioned very clearly the fact that companies wanted to, you know, establish new channels of communication with their customers due to the COVID time. This is a quite, you know, a clear business goal, and the way how to get in touch with customers in those new circumstances. One of the ways, basically, you know, go online, implement some marketing automation tools in order to support these new ways of communication. And I will just one more sentence. So my main point here is every single customer should consider their own business goals, and then, you know, start applying those digital tools or any kind of tools, automation tools, whatever the tool might be, in order to help them achieve their business goals over the short, mid, and long-term phases.
I agree, definitely. The goals should be, let's say, the beginning of the story. But basically, what we need to look at what are the benefits? What is going to happen within our organization? And so when we think about the benefits, that could be, of course, better presence online, that could be increase of sales, that could be a happier employee, that could be a happier customer. So in terms of going back to the beginning, so reflecting upon the goals and going back to the beginning, how would you identify which are the most important business processes that we should think about when we think about digitalizing our business?
Let me jump if it's referring to me. So it is up to the customer basically to know their own business, their own environment, their own competition environment as well, in order to set those goals. We as a consultants, I see our role in challenging those goals. I recall a meetings we had recently with one of the customers in your area, Sandra, where we actually sit together with the owner of the company. Obviously, they know their business, much better than ourselves. Our goal there is to challenge, to try open their eyes in different, areas in order for them to recognize potential new ways of competition. I always recall when I was at the MBA studies, there was a case, like the usual stuff, like case study around McDonald's. And then you actually assess who is their competition. And the obvious one is like Burger King or any other local hamburger provider. Then suddenly you realize that like completely a new, like a healthy food is basically their competition. Like bike shops are their competition, since they promote healthier life. And then I'm not saying that they're not having change in between, but any company should ask themselves, what is my competition landscape? Then recognize their specific business goals within this new environment. And I must say that if nothing, like throughout last 2 years, COVID time, and this bad situation going on in Eastern Europe, actually, I think it shaked us all. So it put us all out of our comfort zones. There is no single business which is not, impacted more or less with the situation. And acknowledging this new environment, knowing when you want to be in, whatever time in front of you, is a crucial point. And like outside people like ourselves are there to challenge it, to ask new questions, like to help them open their eyes and help them define their business goals, and then we can start digitalization of that new world.
I actually really like that the focus should be on recognizing what your market environment is. So maybe from the perspective of Webpower Adrie, Jan, when we talk about approaching a client and actually just showcasing the benefits of such a tool, how do you maybe overcome those difficult situations where they, for the lack of knowledge, don't actually quite understand what the benefits are? Why should we go down that road?
Before I answer that question, I just want to continue on what Bojan was saying. What I think, when you're talking about defining the goals of your business, with what you want to accomplish basically by digitalizing certain processes, there are actually only two goals always. And the first goal should be, how can it add value or be beneficial to my employees? And the second goal is, how can it be beneficial or be interesting for my customers or clients, for them to make life easier, basically. Just very much focused on comfort for the client. If you're able to accomplish that, then all the other goals, such as increasing revenue, increasing profitability, and all that will follow later. If you have happy customers and happy employees, then the rest will come later. And one example here is that, for example, with Webpower Adrie, we at one point decided that our employees, they can decide whether they want to work from home or whether they want to come to the office. And everybody decided for themselves that they wanted to continue working from home. To the point where right now I even terminated the office because I no longer needed it, because literally everybody was working from home. And that, for example, at this very moment allows me not only to recruit people from Zagreb, where we had the headquarters, but now I can employ talent from all over Croatia. We already have one colleague who is living in Osijek. We are now recruiting somebody else, and that person could literally be living anywhere in Croatia. So it's very good for my business that I can hire talent all over Croatia and no longer just be limited to Zagreb. And that at the end will result in more happy customers, because I can work with the best people. Coming back to basically explaining to our clients or our potential clients why Webpower Adrie might be a good solution for them. First of all, we are very much in the business of actually switching companies from MailChimp services or Campaign Monitor or other, let's say, foreign alternatives to Webpower. So very often we don't really have to explain companies what are the benefits of sending newsletters, of doing this marketing automation. A lot of companies, they have somewhat of a feeling of what this can do for their company. They're already doing it. Very often there's still enough space to actually improve this process. And, you know, I always like to compare it with, you know, the fact that you drive, for example, a sports car doesn't make you a good driver. So what we basically offer, we offer a very good tool, but we also offer, let's say, the knowledge and the experience that you would need in order to get most out of this marketing channel. So to have better deliverability, better open rate, better conversions, and therefore increased in revenue. And we are actually the only company locally present in the region that specializes in email marketing and marketing automation. We don't do Google AdWords. We don't do Facebook ads. We are not a marketing agency. We focus only on email marketing and marketing automation, and we do that very well. And we are, we can definitely say that our clients are happy with the results. They're staying for many years with us.
I mean, so many thoughts come up in my mind while just listening to you guys. And I would actually like to just share the fact that we are so afraid of digitalizing anything within our organizations because we are afraid of the process and the result itself. But actually what we have come to terms is that during the COVID, the digitalization actually helped us achieve what we already started dreaming of, let's say, the previous 10 to 5 years, work from home, less working hours because we are more efficient during the time that we are present. So it's kind of paradoxical if you could look at it. We are afraid of the result, but at the same time, the result is actually very gratifying when we think about digitalization and the entire process, which is also something that is a very interesting point of view when it comes to digitalization. Where will it take us? What will happen next? How are we going to handle the next step of progress in civilization? I would say with the digitalization. Why should we seriously give thought into moving forward in trying to connect all the dots, right?
Sandra, when you mentioned this fear of change, last night there was a very nice documentary on Croatian television. Describing the current, way of living in Berlin or in Germany in general, and one of the interviews during the documentary was with a member of the parliament in Bundestag in Germany, the guy who is actually Croatian origin, and at his very beginning of his career, professional career, he was employed by Audi in Stuttgart, if I'm not mistaken, and he was explaining the way they have done like really manual work. Manual labor, painting the cars, and people exposing themselves to the health issues, and that being replaced by the robots. And then he was explaining that I can't recall the exact figures, but I know that there was even increase of number of employees by even implementing new ways of technology. And his conclusion there was the only way for economies or societies to progress is to actually influence the people to get rid of their own fears of change. And that's how you reminded me, actually. Once we actually make people do not fear of the consequences of the change, because we have a proven track record of actually change being helpful to the economy and societies, then we are on a good track to progress even further. But this is, a long time, long running process. It's not the easy thing to do. It's easier said than done. But definitely, I like that point. And and Germany is obviously like the economy which is resilient enough. Yeah,
cutting edge with Germany and the automotive industry over there and everything. Just a side note, I like to reflect a lot on Mr. Jeremy Rifkin. I don't know if you know the gentleman. He's actually on the forefront of just advising nations on how to move towards the next step. And what I really like about his train of thought is that once we start the digitalization process, we will not lose jobs because we have to build the infrastructure. So for the next 150 years, jobs are secured. Let's not be afraid of that. And also his train of thought is people will have more time to deal with people, so which is always a good thing. Let's just go back to the basics of having the processes digitalized. Obviously, we have companies that are just starting the process, reflecting on it, and what would be advice for them. And obviously, there are companies that are already, let's say, on the next level, and they have ERP, they have warehouse management system. So what would be something as an advice for those companies in terms of moving with the next step of digitalization? Bojan or Jan,
Okay.
who wants to take
Okay, well, the way I see it, so both of those groups, if we divide, them in is like low-level digitalized or mid-level digitalized companies, both should look at least 2 steps ahead to their respective environment. That's the obvious thing. We were mentioning quite a few sometimes the things about the COVID, and see that we have seen that companies who were at some level of digitalization were more resilient to the issues raised during the COVID time, either by having the tools to online communications like we do today, or any other means of digital tools to their businesses. So I think all companies should come at least to the level of being able to operate at a very basic level, even by not being present at a physical facility. I know that there are some obvious industries which that might not be the 100% true, but at least make it as operational as possible. Then on the other hand, you have companies who are already digitalized. So you are mentioning ERP, warehouse management systems. What I like to actually put on the table with those kind of customers is, if you were digitalized, 10, 15 years ago, you probably were probably digitalized. Now is the time to go to the real digital transformation part. Why I emphasize this transformation word here? Because if you just implement new set of tools and at the same time do not change any processes in the ways you work, you might end up again, having a new interface for your ERP and not, gaining as much as the value either to your clients and your employees, as Jan was saying earlier. So definitely you should take a look at what processes are redundant, what things might be done differently. We are exposed to new technologies like artificial intelligence, for example, which is almost becoming a mainstream technology today. You can see dozens and hundreds of different examples in all industries starting implement artificial intelligence in certain levels. So you have to see, what processes are most costly to you, or creating the least amount of value, and then consider how you can actually impact those processes, what is there to be changed, and then do the modern tool digitalization of those transform processes. This is the way how actually you will try climbing those new steps for the decades, or at least decade ahead.
And Jan, I know that you also tapped into, I don't know if that's the right word, but I would definitely like to hear more. High-tech agricultural new technologies coming into Croatia. How did that idea come up? I mean, there is a lot of entrepreneurs out there just thinking what new business I can do, how I can do it with new technologies. And then we have you as a great example in terms of just whatever industry there is, let's see what we can do about it. So how did the idea come up with that one?
Well, even though I'm already working on it for quite some time, we are still really at the beginning of all of this. But where does the idea come from? I mean, first of all, just by listening and speaking with people here locally in Croatia, who all believe that Croatia is producing the best food in the world, and I have to agree. I mean, the domestic food is incredible here. We try to enjoy this as a family as much as possible every day. And then at the same time, people here are telling me, like, we as Croatia, we we used to be able to produce enough food for an entire region, and we should actually be a food exporting nation. While on the other hand, the reality is complete opposite, where we became a food importing country. And then with my background being Dutch, knowing that the Netherlands is, after the United States, the second largest exporter of food in the world, I wanted to do something about this, because it really started frustrating me, actually, that everybody is complaining about the fact that we are importing, that we are not exporting, while we have such amazing climate conditions here also to produce. And then in the Netherlands, where it's always rainy and cloudy, and where we actually have to first turn sea into land, that's where they are actually producing more food than many other nations, while the Netherlands in square kilometers is actually smaller than Croatia. But the real reason, of course, why the Netherlands is so strong in agriculture is because of technology, using the greenhouse technology, where you can simply get a much bigger yield per square meter than any of the other traditional ways of farming. And at the same time, it's also more sustainable. You're using, for example, less water. We are, I mean, in Croatia, unfortunately, of course, we see a decline in population, but the world population is growing. So actually, we need to produce more food on basically with using less resources. And I think that Croatia geographically is very nicely positioned for this, because right now, for example, if in the winter, if you want to get certain vegetables in Consum or any other supermarket, then where do those vegetables come from? They come from the Netherlands, from Spain, from Italy, but you barely see any Croatian product. So why not to produce it from here? And at the same time, for example, if you look at the area of Slavonia, pretty much wherever you drill, you get hot water out of the ground. Yeah, we have a lot of geothermal potential in Croatia. Now, at this very moment in the Netherlands, for example, greenhouses are closing their doors because they can no longer afford the high gas prices because of this crisis with Russia. While on the other hand, in Croatia, we have an opportunity to actually grow in greenhouses without the usage of gas. And then knowing that we have a lot of people living actually in the surrounding areas with Budapest, Belgrade, Vienna, Graz, Ljubljana, we have a lot of Zagreb, of course, we have a lot of highly populated cities around Slavonia. So I think instead of burning gas and growing vegetables in the Netherlands and then putting it on a truck to Croatia, I think it makes a lot more sense to use geothermal potential in Croatia, produce it here locally and eat it here locally. So yeah, I wanted to do something about that. And I see myself more as the person being the bridge between what is happening in the Netherlands and what should be happening in Croatia.
If I may just jump into this very interesting topic, and I will try to make connection between the agriculture part and the general digital transformation, and where we actually started our event today. There needs to be some strategic goal in place. Like for a company, it's like adding value to whoever the value needs to be added. In this sense, there needs to be strategic determination of the government, saying that we will focus on this, and then whatever we do, like support of kids in the kindergartens, needs to be all the leverages, all the forces put together into the same direction. The part which I think Croatia misses a lot, and Jan was through that process for digital nomads, I think, very deeply involved, is most of the time we miss that, very strategic goals. And I truly believe that agriculture in Croatia, because of the geoposition, because of the area that needs to be utilized, agriculture is one of the key goals. I personally do not see. I come from Slavonia, so I see people, exiting the Slavonian part at all. That actually then impacts if there is no people, then nobody actually does the agriculture. There is less animals. There is like you lose the complete. You cause a complete chain of the disruption when there is a goal missing. So technology is definitely part of how you're going to achieve it, but there still needs to be definition of the strategic goals on a national level. Then you will see the EU funds coming from that specific area. You will see agriculture faculty in Osijek being at the top of the tops in the region. You will see more young families moving. It's the whole. We have to change this wheel into the opposite direction in order to have it the whole story successful. Just like my humble opinion about the whole story.
No, and now you need to know, of course. Sorry, in the Netherlands, of course, this entire process took centuries, like hundreds of years to get to the point where they are today. Yeah. In Croatia, something like this can obviously also not be achieved overnight. But I personally believe, and I think that Slavonia should be a richer part of Croatia than Dalmatia. I think that agriculture should be the backbone of pretty much any economy. If you cannot feed your own population, then, I mean, what else is there to do? And for example, when you were talking about, the university in Osijek being a top university for agriculture, I mean, these are one of the goals that we have as well, to connect them with, for example, the university in the Netherlands. My ultimate dream would be that if somebody that, for example, grows up in Vinkovci, and if that person needs to make a decision on whether to move to Zagreb, study economics and work an office job from the capital, or whether to go study agriculture in Osijek, go back to Vinkovci, and to become in charge of running a greenhouse and make more money than doing that office job in Zagreb, that's I think the moment that we can say that we have a mission accomplished.
Fully support, yeah. And then all the digital tools are there only to support that. So this is the basically the main conclusion I see now. We have to have these strategic determinations in order to make things successful. And
our greenhouse will also be using AI technology.
Exactly, and IoT and all these technologies, all the fancy things. Yeah, but how you have to have like this goal in order to know what to get out of these sensors, saying that there is a certain level of humidity. Like if there is okay, it's a humid or not humid, and I'm not growing anything there, so it's pointless.
But we can only compete against the Dutch and against the Spanish if we use the same or even better technology.
Fully support. And we have basically if we touch only this technological readiness in terms of the infrastructure, it's getting better. So we have high-speed internet available in most of the parts of Croatia. So all those prerequisites are actually there. We have quite good faculties in terms of the technical education, like faculty of technics in informatics in Zagreb or algebra, for example. Many. So I don't want to point out any of those, but we have those very solid foundation. And then we have to know what to do with those foundation to achieve those whatever the goal is. Yeah.
I agree completely. In terms of geothermal resources, we actually just had a call with EU funds, and what is striking actually that most of the applications were connected to tourism and usage of geothermal resources. Obviously, thermal
wellness.
Spa and stuff like that, but I haven't heard of anyone actually connecting geothermal to agriculture. So maybe for the next round of EU grants that are going to be available for the geothermal resources, we should definitely then focus on agriculture and those technologies for that. For sure.
Bjelovar is doing phenomenal things in that regard. We are also in touch with the mayor, Dario. They actually just completed all the paperwork for getting funding. I think they raised like 3 million euros for doing the documentation and for drilling, for using the geothermal potential that they have, not for the purpose just for tourism, but also for agriculture.
Yeah. So there, I would also say that maybe the low level of visibility of what is actually available to fund with EU resources is also one of the problems that comes up when we think about, okay, how are we going to actually put this idea into work? So those are also the key points when we talk about strategic goals, yes, but then what are the tools? How can we actually help ourselves not to actually use all of our finances all on us and be the only ones who are actually going to put stuff into machinery? Yeah.
But I think is also part of the problem is that it's much more sexy for a mayor to say that they're building a therme or a spa center than that they are building a greenhouse. And that's also one of the things that I can hopefully contribute to is that we need to make agriculture more sexy again. I mean, if you look at the owners of big greenhouses in the Netherlands, I mean, these are all being looked at as highly successful entrepreneurs, hiring hundreds and hundreds of people, and they're all multi-millionaires.
Yeah.
I mean, and here in Croatia, we're looking at farmers being like poor human beings having to perform hard labor, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Whereas we
need
have
to change
on the world scale, on the world stage, we have, you know, pharmaceuticals, we have agriculture being the top of the line CEOs and people who are being looked up to as the most successful business people. I agree completely on that. Yeah. It is a problem. And when we go back to the fact how delicious our food is, we can go back to tomato that burns the mouth, burns the tongue, and then you actually know that it's homegrown and home-based. And when we talk about, you know, having Slavonia actually richer than Dalmatia, that's something that happened 150 years ago, because Slavonia was the one that was feeding, obviously, the entire country, and Dalmatia was nowhere near in terms of richness of its people and resources. So when we talk about, you know, usage of technologies, modern technologies and tools, it's always a great focus on the best practices, where to look if we want to go down the road of digitalizing our business. Should we look into competition? Should we look into what the government is saying? How to actually decide what tool to implement, other than just having those goals in mind, because there are so many options obviously out there. So if you guys would maybe share a few thoughts on that as well.
Let me unmute. So where to look? I think that we definitely we should take a look what, you know, good economies or good societies are doing. So we do not have to be the smartest ones in terms of how to implement certain technology. Definitely, there are dozens of different case studies and references in any of the industries around us. So, for example, I recall if you're mentioning government, Estonia was one of the quite advanced e-government, e-services coming from government countries. And we do not have to be, like, as I said, too smart in order to start copying best practices and, you know, applying them into our everyday life. I'm not saying it's not happening, but the pace and the rhythm of the implementation of those technologies might be different nowadays. Unfortunately, the COVID was the by far the most accelerator of these digital services coming from government, at least here in Croatia. So for the government services, for example, as I said, Estonia is the country to look at. If, for example, we are mentioning agriculture, we have quite successful Croatian company called Adrie. I hope you know them, and they basically managed to combine their internal knowledge about the farmery and, you know, agriculture, and then start exploring with digitalization and offering their solution on a global scale. So we have those examples even in very close to our physical location. So this is something to definitely to be leveraged. And then the part which is kind of I think missing is this connection, but the real connection on a tangible foundation between the academia and the private sector, because I think the academia still is working on you know, quite fluffy topics and neglecting the fact that there is some specific need on a market. So if there would be some real connection, I will come back to the Osijek and agriculture. You know, definitely this is the only way how to actually, put back and forth the good usage of technology. I recall it was like 7-8 years ago on the Windays conference organized back then by Microsoft. It was like really almost a decade ago. When there was a session from again someone who was a Croatian origin working on MIT and actually explaining the role of the specific institution founded by MIT, which actually the only goal is to connect MIT with the market, with the economy, with the private companies, and then in that mutual exchange of ideas, benefits, funding, we can grow as a society completely.
Yeah, and nowadays we are looking towards EU grants for innovations. And in one of the calls, they actually have this specific expense, which is eligible if you want to borrow from the academia, an employer, or from another high-tech company, and have them work for the period of time during the project in your own company. You have this expenses eligible, which is actually a really great way to connect the two areas. Yeah. In terms of also best practices. When we look towards the environment and when we try to decide should we follow in the footsteps of academia or government or our competition, it's still a little bit vague. Do you, Jan, have some thoughts on this, how to actually choose which way to go, no?
Well, I mean, first of all, to continue on what Bojan was saying with, for example, Estonia, which is indeed globally seen as the example of how governments should move forward. The starting point of that is that, first of all, the Estonian government looked at itself in the mirror and said, we are a very small country. We cannot afford a lot of bureaucracy. We simply don't have the money to employ a lot of people in the government. So what can we do to become as lean as possible, to digitalize everything that we can possibly digitalize, and to work with as little people possible within the government, because that's the only way that we can actually afford a government. And I think it would be an amazing starting point if Croatia would have the same reflection on its own, where we simply don't employ that many people in the public sector. That's something, if you ask me, one of the focus points for the upcoming decade, that we should become much more efficient and effective in the government and do actually much more with less people. Obviously, digital transformation is the way to do that. When it comes to how to develop your economy, or in this country, a lot of people that I speak with, they tell me that Croatia doesn't have any opportunities. There are no opportunities in Croatia. But I would actually say the complete opposite, because trust me when I say that it's much more difficult to come up with something new, something innovative in a country like the Netherlands than in a country like Croatia. Starting a business is difficult in Croatia, but starting a business is also difficult in the Netherlands or anywhere else in the world. It's just difficult for different reasons. Here in Croatia, we are maybe, it's maybe difficult for bureaucratic reasons, let's say, having to bring your company stamp everywhere, dealing with tons of papers. Yeah, of course, these are not easy things to deal with. But if that is stopping you from starting a business, then you are simply not an entrepreneur. Because, I mean, if you go through all this paperwork, that's actually, when it really starts getting more difficult for you as an entrepreneur, when you have to come up with a great proposition, when you have to fight your competition, when you need to find your clients, when you need to find great employees and find the money every month to pay paychecks. I mean, that's much more difficult than going from Javni Bilježnik to Javni Bilježnik. And personally, what I always do is I just hire a great accounting firm and I hire a great law firm, and they love dealing with all that paperwork and they do it for me. I just pay a monthly invoice to them. And, when it comes to, for example, how I've developed my business over the past 15 years, I haven't done anything new. It's just that everything that I did is new for Croatia, but it has already been done in the Netherlands. So I always look with one eye what is happening in the Netherlands, and I see what is not being done yet in Croatia, and I bring those kind of things to Croatia. And the first example there was 15 years ago with M+ Group, when I started the contact center, that was an industry that was already highly saturated and very much developed in the Netherlands, and pretty much nobody was doing it here in Croatia. And that company, from 2007 until 2016, I developed it to the point where I was able to make an exit from it in 2016, employing more than 400 people. And then after that, we started with Webpower. Again, you know, this is a business that was highly developed in the Netherlands with very strong local players. And here in this region, everybody is using MailChimp and there's no local player. Well, in the Netherlands, there's hundreds of people employed in that industry. So I started Webpower, and now we are with more than 120 clients. We are among the market leaders here in this region for helping companies with email marketing, marketing automation. And now again, with this agriculture. In the Netherlands, there's nearly 10,000 hectares of high-tech greenhouses. In Croatia, there's 55, 65 hectares of greenhouses. So there's a huge potential to do something there. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm inventing anything. I'm not inventing hot water. I'm just bring hot water to Croatia, as a matter of saying.
And it's not such a, let's say, bad way to go. I mean, we are all looking towards one another to see what kind of an idea we can implement. It happens on a very personal level. It happens on an organizational level. It happens on the government level. These past 2 days, the European Commission has announced that they will be moving forward with the chip production here in Europe. So they're actually calling in investors. Intel announced 90 billion worth of investment into chips and production chips in Europe. So basically on the government level, we are looking what the other person is doing. So we should all also employ that. It's not about, okay, I'm not going to be doing what the other person is doing just because he's already doing it. No. There's always a way to do it differently, and you will touch a different customer base. So it's also a little bit a change in the mentality, I would say, maybe of Croatian people, where we are all the time just locked within ourselves and not trying to do what the other person is doing, but in a different way, you know. So those are maybe also some blockages that happen within our own environment here in Croatia.
Sandra, just to add a comment to this mentality change, we personally have grown. We are quite small company, doing all consulting and educational activities. We are kind of we were not entrepreneur by let's say by nature, so we were all grown up in the corporate environment, and then with the some facts happened to us, we actually start entrepreneuring and running our own company. What we have as one of our leading thoughts when working on our everyday job, and this also comes to the part of changing the mentality, is basically, instead of fighting with, you know, on the fields, on the battles you cannot win, we do a lot of partnership between companies which are, you know, coming even from the same industry. We personally, as a Nephosa, we do not have sufficient workforce to do the IT stuff implementation. What we are good at is like assessing your needs, and we have quite good community of trusted partners around ourselves, which we can, you know, say those people know what to do. So I think this Croatian mentality is also, you know, I know everything, you know, by far the best. So this is something. Do what you are the best in, and you partner with the other experts, you know, to achieve the overall success for the broader audience. I again recall, if we you know, jump for a while to the EU funding part, like the amount of money available for Croatia in any different programs, verticals, etc. My opinion is that there is more money than the absorption capacity of the entire, especially for example, if you go IT. So if we would be able to pull all the money from the EU funding, which is available for IT projects, there would be no people capable of delivering that. So then instead of fighting between ourselves for the same piece of cake, we should take a broader look at the, see that actually cake is bigger, and we can accomplish more if we do this mind shift in terms of partnering with the others.
Mm-hmm. And it's really crazy just how much the EU funds can help, how they can simplify the entire process of implementing your entrepreneurship idea, and just how fast things are going to happen within the next 2 to 3 years. So my warm advice to all of those listening is to just, whatever idea comes up, find a consultant, speak, open your mouth, share your ideas, share them with as much as people as possible, and just get some, inputs on how to actually put the whole thing into work, because there are really so many resources available out there, national funding, EU funding, and the rest. Great. So in terms of, let's say, some final thoughts and conclusions, in the next period of events, let's say, what would be the most crucial focus for an entrepreneur in terms of handling their business, trying to achieve any growth? What would your final messages for this first NET&CHAT event be?
Shall I start? Yeah, all right. So actually, all the way at the beginning of this panel, you touched on the subject of change. And, if there's one thing certain in life, and that is that it will keep changing its environment, in which you have to operate. And my advice would always be just not to fight change, but to embrace it. With technology, we have to use it in order to make our lives easier and better. So don't be afraid of adopting new technologies. And what we have, for example, seen also at Webpower is that technology has really enabled us to work more efficiently, and to have actually to have our people get done much more throughout the day than they used to, for example, in the past. And that is also one of the reasons why we have decided, with a very strong focus on what we can do to improve the lives of our teams, that we are actually gonna start introducing, of course, this 4-day work week, which we started in September. So actually, the productivity gains through technology that we have gotten as a company, we are now kind of like returning that to our employees, for them, in order to have, very popular word, of course, better work-life balance. While at the same time, we are working fully remote, so everybody's working from home, where now everybody therefore is working 4 days a week from home for the same salary. So instead of actually really talking about work-life balance, it's really more about work-life integration, where it happens basically throughout the whole day. I mean, I work myself from home. I don't really have set hours. I have set tasks. I have set tasks that I need to perform. But those tasks can also be performed a little later if at that moment one of my children, for example, needs attention. And that should be really a normal thing. We are not measuring people's time in the office or people's time dedicated to work anymore, but we are really measuring people's performance at the end of the day. I think that any entrepreneur will be successful if you focus on two main things. Take really good care of your employees, offer them also a lot of flexibility, if you can, in how they're working within your company. And then if you have a strong focus on the well-being of your staff, and then also, of course, to focus on your customers, on what they actually want, not what is convenient for your business on how to operate, but listen to your customers and to really find out how they want to be serviced by your company. If you manage those two things, then everything else is going to come eventually your way in terms of revenues and profits.
Great message. Bojan?
Okay, few words from my side to basically come to the close of this NET&CHAT event. Yeah, digitalization or digital transformation is something we definitely experience every day. So there is no way of avoiding that part, nor there is a reason to avoid it. So definitely there should be certain activities over the upcoming months and years. So regardless of the level of digitalization you are currently in, that's the obvious thing. What would be my message to the audience is, do not be afraid to be challenged by the external people to actually shake your understanding of yourselves, of your environment, of your competition, in order to, you know, proactively manage the change Jan was saying earlier. If you are not focusing on the change, then you will be, you know, out of business sooner or later, because someone out there is coping with that change. And then knowing what your ultimate goal is and where you actually aiming in the next period of time, choose wisely the tools which might help you get to that point, and then be in a constant cycle of that change, innovation, in order to be successful on a longer run.
Maybe to add one more thing to that, and that is that you know, I can just so imagine that as we are getting older, that it's also more and more difficult to adapt to change. Now I mean, you see it. Older people are having more difficulties to do online payments and all these kind of things. It's only a normal thing. I'm 37 years old right now, so I feel that I'm still, let's say, relatively young as an entrepreneur, but I'm already not in my 20s anymore. You know, I realize that part as well. So what I think that, especially also if you are a business owner, and if you are, for example, already heading towards your 50s, or maybe you're already in your 50s, I think actually that you could really benefit from also hiring perhaps young people that perhaps don't have a lot of experience in your line of business, but they have different kind of experience. And
I think we lost Jan for a second.
We lost Jan for a second.
Getting a phone call. I was on a I'm back. I think. Yeah. So what I was saying is perhaps it would be smart for entrepreneurs also that are getting a little older, or that are at least not anymore in their 20s or in their 30s, to actually have employees work for them that are in their 20s and 30s, for you to stay connected with what is out there in terms of technology.
Yeah. And also on my end, I would just like to share that whatever idea comes up to mind, there is always EU funds that can help you finance that, in terms of innovative products, in terms of manufacturing sector, in terms of tourism sector, in terms of just strictly digitalizing your business, buying software, developing software, buying equipment and hardware. Those resources are available out there, and definitely don't miss the opportunity of helping yourselves and your business to relieve yourselves in this way. I would very much like to thank you both for this wonderful morning conversation, and for sharing ideas of not being afraid of change, of maybe employing younger, more fresh minds, in terms of actually, when thinking about digitalization, thinking of delivering value for customers as well as clients. And let's see what's going to happen next. High-tech agriculture in Croatia, and maybe chips manufacturing. We can't really say. So for all of those who were with us today, once again, if you need any help with mapping out, analyzing, and delivering potential solutions, feel free to contact Bojan Hadžisejdić from Nephosa, as well as if you would like to enhance your marketing strategic plans and tools, please feel free to contact Jan with the Webpower Adrie. And once again, thank you all so much for joining us, and have a lovely rest of the day from us, from Aestus.
Thank you, Sandra, for the opportunity, and have a great day.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.